Whenever I think of Bob Seger, the song Turn the Page comes to mind, and I've always loved Metallica's cover of the song. Dare I say it? I think their cover is better than the original. Feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments. I'm sure many of you will disagree with me. Also, let me know if you think if Metallica's video should have been banned on MTV. I also never understood why it didn't make the cut in their version of Guitar Hero, given that each album represented on the game, at least the group's 90s output and 2000s, went with their more commercially successful songs. And their cover was, of course, also a massive hit. Today, I want to talk about how Bob Seger wrote the song, how Metallica came to cover it, and how the group's video, starring an adult actress who initially almost turned down the role, resulted in controversy, not just in America, but in my home country of Canada. By the mid to late 90s, Metallica was creatively busy and almost inescapable. From 1996 to 1999, they put out a record every year, starting with 1996's Load, then the following year's Reload, 1998's Garage Inc., and 1999's S&M, another album of theirs I love. As Metallica were on the road to support their back-to-back releases Load and Reload, their shows generally consisted of an encore of the group playing their favorite cover tunes, including Diamond Head's Am I Evil or Last Caress by the Misfits. As Metallica came off the road in 1998, they felt inspired to record an album worth of covers. Drummer Lars Ulrich told Metal Hammer, "We haven't really f***ed with cover songs for a while, but we just did the 2 Load albums more or less back to back, so it just seemed like a good time to do some from a time point of view and a creative point of view. Just shake that off a little bit and come back to something a little looser and a little kind of sillier." The result was a compilation album of covers. The release allowed the band to shake off the seriousness of their past 3 releases and pay homage to their diverse range of influences, all the way from Black Sabbath to Nick Cave. The project also allowed them to bring together all their previous covers in one nice package, making them more accessible to fans. One of the covers on that release is today's topic, Turn the Page. Let's talk about the song. The song was originally written by Bob Seger and dated back to the early 70s. Turn the Page's message is pretty simple, something that still holds true to this day, hence why it's such a timeless song. It captures the contrast of being a musician, playing to adoring fans every night, and the loneliness and boredom that accompanies the time between each gig.
When you're riding 16 hours and there's nothing much to do.
Seger wasn't the only one to sing about the road, as the Stones did Moonlight Mile and Journey wrote Faithfully.
But I'm just about a moonlight mile down. Favorite the road ain't no place to start a family.
Seger started writing the song in 1972, but he didn't complete the track until he was on the road and had a stopover at a restaurant in Iowa. Seger's road manager recalled in Travelin' Man, On the Road, and Behind the Scenes with Bob Seger, "I think we were in Dubuque, Iowa, in winter and stopped at a restaurant. We stood out when we entered a store or a gas station or restaurant en masse. At this restaurant, it was particularly bright inside, so there weren't any dark corners to hide in. All these local guys were looking at us like, what are these guys? Is that a woman or a man?"
All the same old cliches. Is that a woman or a man?
Since the musicians and their road crew had long hair, they would stuff their hair into their hats so they wouldn't be ostracized during their stops. Seger penned his feelings when the diners made remarks about himself and his bandmates, how angry he was inside, yet he really couldn't do anything about it but walk away.
You always seem outnumbered. You don't dare make a stand.
The song is also notable because of its iconic saxophone part, which was done by Alta Reed. Here's him explaining the inspiration behind it.
What he had in mind, who played the track for me when we were at Leon Russell's studio. And Tom Weschler said, Alto, picture, it's a black and white movie, man with a golden arm, late at night, rain on the street in the alley, you're standing beneath a street lamp, and there's a light mist coming down. What does that sound like? You hear a plaintive wail off in the distance. What does that sound like? And I went like, I don't know, da 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 da. And there was pretty much total silence in the control room. And I looked at Bob and I said, was that okay? And he looked at me, was that okay? He looks at Weschler and goes, tell him another story. So, thank you, Lord.
The song became one of Seger's most popular tracks, with the musician remarking how people demanded to hear it at all live shows. It soon took on a new meaning for truck drivers and people who travel for work. The song was originally released on Seger's Back in '72 album, but it wasn't issued as a single. Meanwhile, a live version of the song was found on the 1976 live record, Live Bullet. The song was released as a single in Germany and the UK. This record, coupled with Night Moves, made Seger and his Silver Bullet Band a national act. The song became a mainstay on album-oriented rock radio stations and still gets significant airplay on classic rock stations as well. Seger, for his part, sometimes had trouble with musicians covering his material, admitting in an interview, "It seems like the only people who do my stuff are those really off-the-wall cats looking for really off-the-wall stuff." Turn the Page has been covered by several musicians other than Metallica. It was covered by Australian singer John English, who actually won several awards down under for his performance.
Here I am on the road again.
American country artist Waylon Jennings released a version of the song on his 1985 album, also titled Turn the Page.
Here I am on the road again.
Then fast forward to the late 90s, and Metallica chose to cover the song on their Garage Inc. covers album.
But your thoughts will soon be wandering the way they always do.
I don't know about you guys, but where I live, if I'm listening to the local rock stations, that's maybe one of 10 or 8 or 9 Metallica songs that I hear on constant rotation. It was Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich's idea to cover Turn the Page, as he told Howard Stern here.
You guys choose to cover that song?
I was driving across the Golden Gate Bridge up in San Francisco, and I heard Seger's, the live version of Turn the Page, and I could just hear James singing that. And the first thing that popped out was just James would nail this vocally, and just the lyric element, I think, it felt like it would speak on his behalf and to the situation that we were in. And there was just something about the vocals. And I think earlier on, the cover songs were a lot about the riffs and the energy, but later the cover songs became a big part of how James would interpret them and how James would tackle it and make him his own.
Here I am on the road again.
The saxophone part from Seger's version was replaced with Kirk Hammett playing slide guitar. Here's Kirk talking about why he chose slide guitar for the song.
When I was listening to the song and I heard the saxophone part, and I thought that would be a great guitar line, and I thought it would be even cooler if I played it on slide, because I'm a big Allman Brothers fan.
Oh, wow.
Dwayne Allman in particular. And it was like I saw it as my opportunity to pick up a slide and record a song with slide playing. And I'm happy that I did, because I love playing slide and I love Dwayne Allman.
While Seger's song told the story of life on the road as a touring musician, the band, for their music video, shone a light on the hard life of single mothers who have to make ends meet and provide for themselves and their children, sometimes being involved in careers that are frowned upon, illegal, or even questionable. The protagonist is played by former adult actress Ginger Linn, who portrays a single mother living in a motel with her daughter. By this point in her career, she was still acting in adult films, but also branching out into more mainstream roles, appearing in films and television. Linn told PopGeeks.com that she initially turned down the offer to appear in Metallica's video several times over the course of 3 months. Her reason for doing so was that she thought that it was going to be a denigrating role and involve her being sexualized. On top of that, Turn the Page was also one of her favorite Bob Seger tunes, so she had concerns that Metallica was not going to pay homage to it properly. But she eventually changed her mind after she met with director Jonas Åkerlund. Despite changing her mind though, there was one problem. She told Pop Geek, "I went in and I sat down with the director and he told me a story that it touched me so deeply. I really wanted that role more than anything I'd ever wanted. I got the phone call the next day from the casting director. Well, Jonas absolutely loves you, but you're too thin and you look too good." In order to get the role, Linn had to gain 10 to 15 pounds. According to Linn in the same interview, Jonas made the video into a short film and entered it into some film festivals where it took home several awards.
Metallica video. I'm in the Turn the Page video, one of the most powerful and fun projects that I've ever worked on. It was a blessing. I loved doing the Metallica video. Jonas Åkerlund was the most amazing director ever.
The video is intertwined with shots of the band performing the song, with Linn portraying that single mother.
We walk into this restaurant, strung out from the road.
The video depicts Linn as a struggling single mother who works multiple jobs to make ends meet. One evening, she encounters a difficult customer at her night job, leading to a tense situation while her daughter sleeps nearby. This portrayal captures the song's themes of hardship and perseverance in challenging circumstances. Turn the Page's music video did ruffle a few feathers. Director Jonas Åkerlund, for his part, was no stranger to controversy. In fact, he had previously directed the Prodigy's video for Smack My, which came out 1 year earlier. If you remember the video, due to the fistfights, sexual scenes, drug scenes, and allegedly misogynistic language in the lyrics of the song, it was removed from MTV after several weeks. Fun fact you guys may not know is that Åkerlund used to run a circus back home in Sweden and played drums in a Swedish death metal act before he came to America. Both the Prodigy's video and Turn the Page drew criticism from women's rights groups. Åkerlund told MTV in 1998, "Sometimes when I hear stuff about it, I realize that people that say stuff haven't even seen it." The director came up with the idea for Turn the Page's video, drawing inspirations from his own experiences and looking at the lyrics. While at first glance you may not see the similarities, Åkerlund is a single parent, telling MTV she has the same kind of problems that a lot of people have every day, but she's into something else. "I'm a single father and I do work a lot and I should be more with my kid, and I'm struggling in life like a lot of people do. We all have our different problems." Some women's rights groups and even children's rights groups cried foul about the video, but the director claimed the video's message was lost in the outrage. Åkerlund added, "I hate violence. I'm against violence, but sometimes when you have an idea, to make that idea really strong, you need to go all the way. If I have that kind of idea, I have to go all the way." A week after the video premiered on MTV in November of '98, the network reached out to the band's publicist, Joel Amsterdam, to comment on the subject matter itself in the video and shed some light on why the band covered the track, stating they liked the song because of the road dog aspect of it, talking about that life and what that's like to experience that kind of loneliness. They use the video as a metaphor for loneliness in general and the kind of toll it takes on people's lives. Any information on what the band was thinking and what the director was thinking has to come from them. Metallica's fans seemed to get the video's message, with MTV publishing a letter that a 16-year-old fan named Justin Thompson wrote to the network. He penned, "I think the band was just trying to make people realize that people are trying to get by however they can, so I think they just chose to symbolize all the people who are just trying to make it through the day." Personally, I feel like the song is even more relevant today because where I live in Canada, and from what I hear about the States, it's so much harder to survive these days, and with social media, people seem like they're more lonely than ever. MTV's news department also interviewed a woman named Fatima Jaffer, who worked as the information coordinator for the Vancouver, British Columbia-based Women's Support Center, who criticized Metallica, telling the network, "I don't think Metallica is all that qualified to make deep comments about women. To do so without context, it's easy to be misread. I myself prefer they stay away from subjects like this that can do a lot of damage and leave it to organizations like us. Basically profiting from music that's on this topic is something I stand totally opposed to." MTV's news department interviewed a lawyer named David Levy, who represented a group named Children's Rights Council in Washington, D.C., who was upset about the daughter being left alone in the motel room while her mother works the night, stating, "I'd say Metallica should be prosecuted under child endangerment laws." because kids are watching that at home on MTV. Even in my country of Canada, the Toronto Star took issue with the video. A writer with the Toronto Star wrote a story about how she was at the gym one day in the middle of the afternoon, and the TV was turned on to our version of MTV Much Music. During her workout, they were playing Turn the Page. She remarked how her and her friends at the gym had their jaws hit the floor, remarking not so much because of the video's sexual themes, but because of Ginger Lynn was bringing her daughter to her place of employment. She then went on to cite the scene at the end of the video where Lynn talks about how if she had to do it all over again, she would make the same choices in her life. She added in her article how a tune about a rock band on the road could become an anthem for street-walking strippers who express no regret. She added that if the song had a deep-rooted message, it was definitely lost on young kids, adding, "I'm a pretty liberal person, but that just made me sick." She was so angry about the video, she even went to Much Music, who broadcast the video, and asked them why the station chose to play the song in the middle of the day. Much Music issued a statement that read, "We absolutely stand by our decision to run the video during the day," adding that the station's screening committee thought long and hard about it and voted unanimously to put it on, with the station's spokesman adding, "Yes, it's disturbing, but it's a harsh and realistic portrayal that deglamorizes the stripper icon that's been glamorized not only by rock and roll but by pop culture." The spokesperson added that their station hadn't received any other complaints about the video, and MTV also stated the same thing. Lars Ulrich, meanwhile, told Much Music that he didn't want the band's message in their songs or videos to be too obvious. You're maybe wondering, how did Bob Seger feel about the band covering his song? Well, here's what he had to say to Artisan News.
I loved it. Yeah. It was great. He told me they were going to do it, and I loved it. You know, I really like the drums especially, you know, because our drums are really simple, and oh, what a cool take on it. It's been done before. I won a Grammy in Australia. Another guy did it in Australia, won a Grammy doing it.
Garage Inc., for its part, peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart, ending Metallica's streak of number 1 albums, starting with the Black Album. It was Garth Brooks who took the number 1 spot the week it came out. Turn the Page was issued as the first single from Garage Inc., topping the Billboard Hot Mainstream Rock Tracks chart for 11 consecutive weeks, the highest number of weeks Metallica has ever spent at the top until their song Lux Eterna came out in 2022. Garage Inc. also had another hit with Whiskey in the Jar, whose video was also directed by Åkerlund. That song peaked at number 4 on the Mainstream Rock Tracks chart and won a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance. They also had a third charting single in their cover of the Misfits' Die Die My Darling, which peaked at number 25 on the US Mainstream Rock Tracks chart. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock Culture Stories. Take care.